Professors, just informing that we have started going on live on YouTube. Mekla ma'am, can we start?
Yes, Wesley, we'll go ahead.
Welcome back, all of you, for the second day of the Luminaire lecture series. Yesterday, we had, as Dr. Archana was telling, a scintillating talk. Now we are on to day 2 of the Luminaire lecture series. We have Dr. Archana Arul to speak to us on literature and media. Before we begin, may I ask Professor Sam Golden to give us the opening prayer.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Shall we all pray? Prayer for the college. O thou, who in days past didst put it into the hearts of good men to found this college, for the imparting of sound learning, the building of character, and the spread of spiritual truth and knowledge of thyself. Bless our college and schools. May love, unity, and brotherhood be learned here. May industry, uprightness, and courage grow here. And from this place, may they be sent forth continually, a stream of men and women who shall serve thee faithfully in thy world. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Professor. I consider it a great honor to really welcome all of you. Speaker for the day, Dr. Archana Arul, and we have Dr. Sridhar Krishnaswamy, Dr. Sitendra amidst us. So it's a great honor to have them. And I also welcome our head of the department, Dr. Mekla Rajan, all the staff members, all the participants who are watching us live on YouTube. I extend a warm welcome to all of you to the day 2 of Luminaire lecture series. So I would now invite Professor Aruna to introduce our speaker to the audience. Aruna ma'am.
Good evening, one and all. I'm glad to introduce Dr. Archana Arul, Associate Professor, Head Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, SRM Institute of Science and Technology. With more than a decade of teaching experience, she has been holding various positions And to name a few, she is the International Relations Coordinator of the College of Sciences and Humanities, Chairperson of the Board of Studies, internal expert at of the Department of Music, Bharatanatyam and Fashion Designing. Her areas of expertise are multifaceted and multifold, which include creative writing, communication, film appreciation, culture studies, and Indian diaspora. As a PhD supervisor, she is at present guiding 4 PhD scholars. Dr. Archana Arul's journey in dance started at a very young age, say at the age of 6. Having learned from popular gurus, her love for the art form enthused her to take up an MA in Bharatanatyam. Not complacent, she is also in the process of mastering Mohiniyattam. As an academician, she has lots of publications to her credits both at the national and international journals. A lover and constant seeker of knowledge, she has completed more than 32 MOOC courses on Coursera. She regularly writes articles for leading papers and magazines. And she has also authored chapters in books, and she has at present 4 books in progress. It's indeed a privilege to introduce and welcome Dr. Archana Arul, an artist and academician of scholarly excellence, to deliver a lecture on literature and media. We invite you, ma'am, to deliver your lecture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. Completely honored. I would quickly try to share my screen, and then I think we're good to go. Is the screen visible to all? If somebody could acknowledge that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful afternoon, wonderful evening, in whichever part of the world we are in right now. Today, the topic that we had decided for today's session is going to be literature and media. We all have different opinions on this. Some of us are excited about this. Some of us are not so excited about this. Some of us look at this like, look at this as an opportunity of exploration. Some of us are wondering as to should we even be, doing this, where are we heading? So with all this ambiguity in mind, we are going to head right into the discussion, right into the lecture. Let us start at the very beginning. Where we were, where are we now, and where are we heading to? This is where I would like to pitch today's lecture with all of you. I was told that this is going to be a group of research scholars, PG students, and interested faculty members, and we will be in the process in the due course in explaining these different phases, be discussing possibilities of research as well. Do feel free to stop in between, or if you're comfortable communicating through the chat, please pose your questions there. We will pause, we will definitely discuss, and then go ahead from there. So where we were, where are we now, and where are we heading to? Where we were. So the minute we hear literature, these are the things that pops into our mind, or this is our common understanding. This was a traditional understanding. The early days in which we were trying to build in syntax, in which we were trying to build in conventions and norms, we were establishing traditional structures. So the minute somebody heard of literature, people understood it as prose, poetry, fiction, and drama. And when people heard media, they were majorly thinking about print, broadcast, in terms of mass media, films, and then social media. Some of you might ask me, why did you bring in social media into the past? Because, for the way the world is unfolding, for the way we are looking at things right now, maybe the advent of social media also is a thing of the past, and I will get to that very soon. So these were the clear demarcations of literature and media we were aware of in the beginning. And as to go back to the question of where did all these things come from, we can never forget the oral traditions and the folklore, where the early days, the medieval period, where we had ballads, different parts of the world, different cultures, different traditions. But what was this homogeneous idea about all these art forms was the oral tradition. So what was originally in terms of oral tradition was refined, I could say, formulated, put into proper structures and called literature. And what is media trying to do? How did this evolve? So there is one interesting invention that kind of connects both literature and media, the advent of the printing press itself. The invention of the printing press kind of revolutionized the idea of reading. It kind of created a lot of socio, political, economic and cultural developments in the society. A lot of things happened during this process. So we're talking about 1440s, a period in which this was invented. And when we say this revolutionized the idea of reading, we knew that until this time, what was in oral tradition, what was probably experimented into writing, and from writing it was moving very slowly but steadily into the printed book formats all over the world, can we say. Both what started in Europe and China was reflected in different shores of the world. And why is this invention important to media also? Because this is where the invention of newspaper, magazines, and journals happened. So the newsletters, community newspapers were very much in vogue, and people, this kind of, not very long ago, even in India, our mornings were incomplete without a newspaper. And most of us would agree to that. You know, our mornings are defined with the newspaper in mind. So this did not happen yesterday or a decade ago, but it started sometimes in the 1400s, 1500s. And the demand for more was happening. Now, having said this, I would like to strike a chord on the intersection of literature and media. So we know where literature comes from. We know where media comes from. You know, even if I go back and say in terms of media, the common man's understanding is that of print, broadcast, films, and social media. The initial stages began with print media, when I was talking to you about the advent of printing press itself. So how did this evolve? How did this evolve? Thanks to the advancement in the technology, which again revolutionized in multifolds. And during the 18th century, television came into existence. The stretch the print media had, the luxury, the shelf life the print media had in terms of newspapers and magazines, television probably did not have, because very soon, once people were used to moving images on their screen, very soon film came into existence, and it kind of started taking an upper hand with television. We will look at it very briefly. Now, as much as we are discussing as to where we come from, what is more important to us in today's discussion is the intersection. Where is there a connect? Is there a disconnect? Where do we collide? How can we collaborate? Where is the confluence of literature and media in this entire scenario? We know that in this rapidly evolving, highly technical driven world, literature and media are slowly, I could say, I will call it, are losing their boundaries. There is a more, fluidity in terms of media and literature. Now, we have been seeing it in certain, instances. Where are we now? We cannot shy away from the fact that there is a constant evolution in the process of the text. The idea of the text itself is evolving. What was earlier in the printed form is, what was considered a text in the printed form is no longer the only definition of the text. No, it is slowly but very, very consistently evolving. The idea and the notion of the text itself is evolving. So today, when we're talking about the text, it could easily mean a painting, cinema, website, advertisements, you name it, you got it. Your video games, popular culture, you name it, you got it. Now, I would also like to highlight this one fact, where McLuhan clearly states that the medium becomes the message. Medium in which the literature is written is no longer considered a secondary, aspect of communication. So in what form is the text conveyed to you, in what medium is the text conveyed to you, becomes very, very critical and very, very important in today's context. So let us say that there are criticisms also in terms of media and literature. Not everybody is appreciative of this, especially people who strongly believe that literature, has an element of, art attached to it, and this is. And then there are debates of high culture and low culture. The minute mass media comes in, is it taking it off the pedestal? Is it kicking it off? Or when we talk about media, are we talking about the death of literature or the death of novel itself? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That is not what we are advocating right here. What we are trying to do is rethink the idea of the medium itself. What is wrong, or why shouldn't we understand or appreciate art form in the way this is presented to us? Is a question I want you to have in your mind. So far, we have been thinking that media, the turbulence that is happening in the academic world, for instance, is due to the recent advent of media. But when we look at the evolution of printing press, we kind of understand that this has been coexisting amicably, perhaps, for a very long time. The media and literature have been going hand in hand for quite some time now. And now, thanks to the rapid technological advancement, we are making rapid progress in various mediums. Medium in literature is no longer considered secondary. While some call it a paradigm shift, I see this as an organic and a healthy evolution. I would like to quickly run you through the adaptations, the movie adaptations that has often been studied as a parallel text. The movies have often been studied as a parallel text. Adaptations are everywhere, on the televisions and film screens, on stage, in musicals, on the internet, in novels and comic books, and also in video games, and even in theme parks. Now, what do we mean by that? We mean that in the end of the day, we are all storytellers. The medium in which we tell our story varies. The medium in which we tell the story varies. Video games characters, for instance, all these Star Treks, I'm sure the students of today's generation will be able to relate to a lot of characters that we have listed. The Avengers, your Superman, your Spider-Man. The idea of monetizing these characters, the minute we talk about media, monetization comes into picture. When we talk about literature, we always equate it with a kind of elitism. We kind of call it, we try to canonize it. We try to give it a pure artistic form. And unfortunately, the minute media is brought into the scenario, we think monetization is on. But we are going to be talking about why this is important as well. So video games, movie adaptations are not things of recent advent, right? So for a very long time, we know classical literature, drama has been performed. So performance was very much part of the productions. And film as a language and film as a text. Am I audible? I think I'm having some.
You're okay, ma'am. You're okay. We can hear you.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can.
All right, sorry. My internet was fluctuating a little bit. Right. I was talking about adaptations. So adaptation is one area where we can see the confluence of literature and media. And this could be a scope for research. This could be a scope for explorations. And we have different periods in which these adaptations were made. There are some classical texts which has been very frequently adapted. Say, for instance, most of the plays of Shakespeare have been adapted at different time zones at different parts of the world. Yeah, and you also have adaptations of contemporary novels. And what happens with mass media is that it does not have this clear demarcation of classical literature and popular culture. That is one thing. That is one thing mass media tries to negate here. It doesn't take into consideration. It doesn't take it is not it doesn't have this one point agenda of just making a film of classic work or a classic novel. They make productions, they produce, or they come up with screenplays of contemporary novels also. So that is one thing we will have to have in mind also. Now, we might have often heard of people speak about film language. Now, when they talk about film language, are they talking about a particular semantic, network? Are they talking about a bunch of vocabulary? What do they mean? What do people mean by it when they call film language? What do people mean by it when they say film as a text? They Film as a language is more of a metaphor than anything. Now, why do we keep saying film language? Because films make a statement. The films speak to an audience, and it does not necessarily have to cater to one group of audience or one part of audience in one part of the world, but it caters to multiple audiences, multiple layers of audiences with multiple intellectual intelligence, the intellectual capacities. It caters to the needs of multiple multimodal audiences, and in a broader terminology, in a broader perspective, I can tell you that it has an access to all. It is easily available to the masses as well. It is not restricted to one section of the society. It is again, so in the beginning we saw how in terms of folklore, what was easily accessible to common man was probably taken away from him for quite some time, but with advent of cinema, with the advent of films, we are taking it back to the masses. So have we reached a cycle? Is it coming to a cycle? That is also an interesting thing that we might want to think about. And media does not come without criticisms. No, this is one thing that we are constantly listening to in different channels that is available to us. Let us not forget what the great man once said: nothing vast enters the life of mortals without a curse. So yes, there are criticisms for media, especially in terms of adaptation. I think I've listed three constantly heard criticisms for films. So people say that books remain better in terms of adaptation. Even if you had asked me a couple of years ago when I did not know film language, I did not understand or appreciate films as much as I do now, I would have probably told you nothing can replace my book. I'm not happy at all. They missed this element, or they missed out the character. How could they do that? And people often say that, we've heard people say that, oh, there is less scope for imagination. I had visualized it like this, and when they put it out there in a different screen altogether, there is no scope for imagination. My imagination is being set into a limitation, and I'm not happy about it. And the other constant criticism is that not everything is from my book is there on the screen. They have left out something. How could they do this? So these are some of the criticism the adaptations have. Now, when we think about why is this happening, why are this criticism, why do people feel that certain elements are being missed out, or why is it impossible for creators to convert all the message, all the characters, all the most quintessential things from the pages to the screen? We will have to understand there are different styles of adaptation, and there are different theories of adaptation. So I'm listing three for you for today's session. So the first one is called borrowing, intersection, or transforming. So this is one style of adaptation. We borrow certain elements of a work. Say, for instance, we pick a plot, or we are inspired, the movie producer, movie director is inspired by one particular character, and they pick that one character, or they're inspired by the setting. They are inspired by the place, the location in which the story takes place, and they use that in their films. So they borrowed certain elements of the book and they try to build a story out of it. So this is borrowing, intersection, or transforming. And the second style of adaptation is called traditional adaptation, literal or radical. So literal adaptation, the complete story is there. If you're not missing out on one character, major, minor, flat, round, everything is there. And the plot, we are 100% loyal to the Freytag experiment, that the plot development is absolutely there. What you see in the book, what you read is what you get on the screen. So that is one. And the last type of adaptation is called the close, identical, or loose adaptation. This is where so you don't take elements from the book. You read the book or you read a poem, and then you get inspired, you be inspired, and then you come up with your version of the text in form of a movie. So there are different styles of adaptation. This is why people are primal. They feel that, just if this is not right, certain elements are missing, or I'm not happy with the movie, I prefer the book. So this is why we feel, because there are different styles of adaptation, and as average consumers or as a layman, when we watch films, we might not be knowing the differences. Now, when talking about borrowing, traditional or close adaptations, take for instance Harry Potter films, because Harry Potter is pretty popular among students. Therefore, I've quoted this here for you with better understanding. So a film is a close adaptation when most of the narrative elements in the literary text are kept in the film. Few elements are dropped and not many are added. So we try not to ruin the entire structure. We still try to hold on to certain elements of the work, and we try to bring out the best as much as possible, because we have to understand these two ways of storytelling are unique and they have their own styles, they have their own advantages, they have their own disadvantages. So what a beautiful description that is given in the book cannot be 100% truthfully depicted in the screen. So we have our own shortcomings that way. So like I said, this specifically goes for the first 3 Harry Potter films, and oh sorry, yeah. She also, okay, so what happens when a book is made into a movie? Who has the copyright? So there are some legal boundings to it, legal bindings to it. So the author at times, depending on whatever contract they sign up, so she's probably a she has copyrights, she has royalties for her work, of course, but then the creative license is also shared with the movie producer. So this is borrowing, because the major elements of the movies are being used in the film. Intersection, literal and identical adaptations. Now we try to be as honest as possible. In film theory, we have something called the author theory. Author theory is where we consider the director as the complete owner of the film. Director is the god, he is the producer of the film. This is his style. So even in contemporary, I don't know about my audiences, I don't know about the geographical spread out here, even in Tamil cinema, because I assume all of you know Tamil cinema. So even in Tamil cinema, you look at contemporary directors, okay, so this is the style, this is the signature of the director. When I look at a scene, and even without knowing the movie, I know, oh, this cast, I know the style. I know the pick of the director. He picks characters like this. He picks actors like this. Or this is a kind of location. This is a kind of music this person likes. Some directors like a very dark, eerie, ambience. So this applies to directors from different parts of Hitchcock, for instance. He's a master storyteller. He experimented with suspense. And if you have noticed the frames in, if you had watched Psycho, Birds, or Vertigo, you might see not one frame will be geometrically symmetrical in his films. It will all be skewed. It will all be, asymmetrical, because that was his style. That was the kind of psychology he was trying to connect with his audiences. That was the kind of ambience he was trying to create with his audience. That was his signature. So everybody has a unique signature statement. Everybody has a unique, stamp. This is their identity. This is their mark. So in terms of literal translation, we try to be as much as loyal to the original text that is produced. So Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet. Now we're going to be looking at the Indian version of Hamlet also, that was produced in 2014. So this film tries to be as identical as possible, as close as possible. It runs to about 242 minutes, and it has tried to retain all the characters, scene, and the word intact. What you see is what you get. That kind of an adaptation. And the third type of adaptation that I want you to understand is loose, radical, and transforming. Like how many of you already know that Clueless is inspired by Jane Austen's Emma? Or 10 Things I Hate About You is inspired by Taming of the Shrew. Contemporary movies, commercial movies that we watch, or for instance, this Tamil movie called Polladhavan was actually inspired by bicycle thieves. How many of us are aware of it? So certain elements of the film, so you read a book, you get inspired, and then you come up with your own version. So this is radical or loose adaptation. So the source material is the inspiration. We cannot deny that, but it is the director's creative license that dominates the screen. So that is the difference. So these are the three styles of cinematography, three styles of adaptation I wanted to discuss. Now we might have come across, even in your own classes, your teachers might have screened a lot of theater adaptations for you, Shakespeare's adaptations for you. Ran of Akira Kurosawa is a Japanese version of King Lear. Much acclaimed, celebrated. We all know that Akira Kurosawa is a master storyteller, right? So, and Rashomon effect, the idea, the narration, the way in which he narrates a story, different points of view of a story comes forth from that. So Ran and Throne of Blood. A Throne of Blood is Macbeth, and Ran is King Lear. So this is the Japanese version of Shakespeare for you. And we also have an Indian version, a trilogy, Vishal Bharadwaj's trilogy, Makbul, Omkara, and Haider. If we are taking a wild guess at it, I'm sure you, if you have already watched it, you know what the inspiration for these movies are. So this is Macbeth, Othello, and Hamlet. And look at the time period in which Bharadwaj took to make this film. Makbul was released in 2003 and Omkara in 2006. Haider in 2014. So one might wonder as to why does people take so much time to produce a film? They already know the story. You already know your characters. You also know your plot. So what takes time? Like I said, this is not 100% replica of the original source. Like in translation, the problems that a creator, a director faces in making a movie, it's not far, or it's not something that is not relatable to translation, right? This is somebody's creativity, the plot, but with that inspiration, what am I going to make, and how are my audiences going to connect with me here? So that takes a few courses, and that takes a long process. So these are the Indian version of Shakespeare's plays. And all of them have won a lot of laurels and much acclaimed, well received. Now, we might want to think here, is this a one-way street? Is this the only confluence of literature and media we have? Is this the only street where books are the source and movies are made out of it? Has there ever been something on the other way around? Well, the answer is yes. So we have had movies and books made or based on true events that has been happening in the society. For instance, Black Friday. Black Friday themes around or revolves around the 93 Bombay bomb blast. So this second image is that of a poster of the movie, and the first one is a cover page of the book. Okay, and Zero Dark 30 is, I don't know how many of you have watched this, but this is another popular movie among our students here, in journalism department. We keep screening this every year. So this movie revolves around the plot or the chase of Osama bin Laden towards his end days, and how was he captured and what all happened. We read reports and reports. No, we've read non-fictions, or we probably read books written by the officers involved in the investigation and the chase and all that, where it is still an absolutely beautiful experience to watch it on screen. Okay, if your interest is screens, and if you appreciate that language for what it is. And also, now, is fiction and film the only confluence that we have? Interestingly, we have multiple options available for us. Just like how fiction is made into films, a lot of non-fiction is made into documentaries. Jordan's Last Dance. These are some I thought I could share it with you, because these are easily available on OTT platforms. And if you are interested, you can go back and watch these documentaries. So 9/11, the turning point, the Twin Tower attack, and a documentary based on that. The Social Dilemma is another very, very popular documentary produced by Netflix. This is available on YouTube also. Generally, what the content that is licensed to an OTT platform will not be available on YouTube, but this is available on YouTube because of the critical content that this is telling the world. So I think this was released in 2020. So The Social Dilemma, directed by Jeff Orlovsky, speaks about the kind of ethical situation, the need for ethics in the consumption of social media itself. I feel that as students of literature, journalism, as students, as consumers of media in different, platforms, in different avenues, it is very, very, if you are one person who spends on an average about 6 to 7 hours on your mobile phone, and if you are not sleeping on time, and if you are constantly checking every time your phone blinks, I think this documentary is for you. This is also very well received among people in different parts of the world. I would like to give you two quotes from this documentary, because this documentary also is very close to my heart. It says, if you are not paying for the product, then you are the product. So many a times when we have social media accounts, in terms of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, we get it for free. Have we ever wondered as to why are they giving it for free? What is the catch? What is the catch? Why is it given free of cost for us? That is because, ladies and gentlemen, we are the products and we are not buying the product, we are the product. And what are they selling? What are we giving them? We are giving them our time and attention, based on which these people are making millions and millions of money. Now, this is not said by some random person. This documentary is made and developed by leading managerial former employees of Facebook, Google, and you name an MNC, and they are there. So these people have come out and said, listen, enough is enough. Something has to be done about it, because when we scroll down through certain pages and we come across certain ads, or you are interested in buying a product, you look at it and you go back, even if you are logging into a different website, these ads, they keep flashing before you. And how does it happen? People say there are a bunch of really well-educated Silicon Valley graduates who are using AI, and they are forcing you to think, they are forcing you to buy certain things. They are telling you what movie you can watch, where you can go, and what food you can eat, and all those things. This is being dictated by somebody. As scary as this is, there is also another quote that I want you to remember in terms of the social dilemma. There are only two industries that call their customers users: illegal drugs and software. So that is the social dilemma for you. So if you are interested, please go watch it. Delhi crime, we cannot easily forget the infamous Delhi gang rape case. And this is a documentary based on that. Now, if you're going to ask me, is this what happened exactly? I might not be in a position to tell you, but I can tell you this is the closest to what we can get, because for the sake of national security, for the sake of privacy, for the sake of basic human courtesy and decency to the victim's family, certain elements and episodes might have been, kept out, which I think is fair enough. And this is the closest to what we can get. And Becoming, so non-fiction, no, Becoming is another popular novel written by the celebrity author herself, Michelle Obama. And there is this documentary on Netflix that speaks about how she went about on a tour publicizing her book. Like I was talking about, the idea of monetizing that is always associated with media. Why is it that media is often criticized to have this, anything that media has to do must be money, like what the social dilemma says. They're buying you, they're buying your time and attention. So why does it happen? Well, for that matter, monetization has always been there. People were writing books, people were publishing. You talk to a publisher, you don't talk to a writer, you talk to a publisher, they will tell you the importance of monetizing. I kind of feel that media has an upper edge over this. They kind of know their audiences, maybe because the AI is already gauging them too much. They know so much about us, more than what we know about ourselves. For whatever reason, they know the synergy that evolves in the market. So when a book is made, the PR that has to be done, the way in which it has to be promoted, the way in which it has to be catered. So the book tour is beautifully documented. That might also be of interest to you. And Bohemian Rhapsody, if you haven't watched it, I must say you must go and watch this. So these are some of the documentaries, so non-fiction to documentaries. Just as how films are made, films are based on fiction, documentaries are also made based on non-fiction. And biopics, memoirs. So there are memoirs, there are life stories of celebrities that are made into biopics. So this is the circle we are talking about. We're talking about how in the beginning, we try to pick up stories, we try to gather stories, we try to collect stories, we try to collect ballads, we try to collect music, we try to collect art from people, and we try to refine it, and we try to refine it, and then we try to put it into different structures. So we called it different names. There were theories formulated. There was an amount of beauty to it. There was an elevation to artistic form and structure. It was wonderfully well received. And now, what is happening with the advent of media, or the confluence of media and literature, is that it's bringing it to the circle. What was taken, it is taking it back to where this was taken from. It is taking it back to the masses. It is taking these stories back to the mass consumption. It is out there. Now we might also talk about, say for instance, not all films are commercial. There is something called art film. There is parallel cinema. There is and then there is German expressionism, French impressionism, neorealism. There are a lot of terminologies, And how do we talk about all these things? Well, uh, a person, the language, the film language, when I said it makes a statement, it speaks to the audience. It does not speak one statement, it does not give one messages. So you can watch just like how you read poems and you have multiple interpretations, just like how you read novels and you have multiple interpretations, you watch films and you get multiple messages. You want to look at feminism, you want to look at stereotyping, you want to look at themes of diaspora in films, you want to look at you want to look at structuralism, post-structuralism. It is out there in the films. So the content, the message is out there, and the interpretation is absolutely given to the choice of the user. We get what we seek for from these films. Now, where are we heading to? That is more important, because most of us already know where all this started and how the evolution of literature happened and how we got literatures from different parts of the world, despite the fact that this was majorly dominated by the Western and the European cultures and traditions for a very long time, post-colonial period. We see, for instance, as teachers also, when we were teaching Gabriel Okara, for instance, when we were teaching, you laughed and laughed and laughed. Or when we were teaching Bora Ring, we might explain, we might take textual references and show students. But today you have the aid of internet. You can Google Bora Ring, and then you can show them that image. Or when you're talking about a sacred ritual practiced in Africa, or today, in the department I am on deputation right now here at Sikkim, where we are trying to gather documents, where we're trying to put together the indigenous literature of the northeastern region. We have a lot to lean on the internet for, on the media for, in terms of documenting it, because people talk about the kind of turbulent history that this region has. So my understanding of Northeastern, or my understanding of Northeastern literature was very, very, very limited until we, came here. And, we have multiple students and scholars working on their indigenous tribe, their indigenous culture, their identity, the rituals, the folklore that we are trying to document on. And there is like striking contrast to it. So where are the boundaries? Where does literature become media, or where does media become literature? Some people are also calling social media as literature, right? So you look at Instagram reels, you look at a tweet on Twitter, you look at Facebook pages. So people say what used to be a column in a newspaper, or when people used to write about my slice of life, is what is happening in today's social media. And a vlog, when somebody makes a vlog, it might be of a travel or of a food. This is again documented. We never know what good could come out of it, right? So all these things are documented by different sources. So where are we heading to? I think it is absolutely mystical. It's absolutely enigmatic to me as much as this is to you. We are heading in a direction. This is the way forward. There is no denial. We can never afford to be in denial. See, for instance, take a quick look at what I have here for you. So in terms of popular culture, performance, and literature, these are samples of the Japanese popular art, manga, anime, cosplay. If you are interested in, popular culture for a very long time in history was always associated with the Western popular culture, was always associated with the Western world. Today, you see that this is revolutionized. Again, K-pop, BTS, right? And then the Japanese popular culture, manga, millions of money is being made because of this. I still haven't got a hold of myself and understood this, but all my students are into it. They know this already. So when we recently got a speaker to speak about this to them from Japan, we didn't know much of it, but we were so happy that the students were, involved in discussions and debates about this. So manga, we were talking about movie adaptation, how certain elements are missed out and all. Interestingly, when manga is made into a film or series, mostly into series, because of their lengthy, episodes, every page in that book is made into a series. That is why every anime runs to around, I think there is one that runs to around 298 episodes. Can you believe it? So Dragon Ball Z, and then it goes on. No, then I think there is another episode also. Every anime that was made under the series of Dragon Ball had close to 300 episodes, which is amazing. And we might wonder as to who watches all these things, or who watches these things that is being posted on YouTube. Millions of people are watching it. They are consuming it. So we have a choice now. We have a choice to say, this is not right, or I don't think this is heading in the right direction, or we can gracefully accept this and say, maybe this is another form of evolution, no? Just like what happened during the times of the printing press, right? When it revolutionized the very idea of reading, this probably is a time when the storytelling is being revolutionized. The medium becomes the message. The way in which the story is conveyed to the people is becoming very, very important. I don't know if you have heard of Black Mirror Bandersnatch. This was a film that was made in 2018. 2018. Now, this was an experimental science fiction that was made, where it is still available on Netflix if you are interested. It is interactive in a way. It is almost like a video game narration, where there is this character, and the character goes, and then what food should this person eat? So there is a menu, and you can choose what he has to eat. So this is a style of non-linear narration where the story has multiple endings. The story has multiple endings. We are as interactive as, we get involved in the story. You don't feel left out. You are not somebody who is taking a back seat and watching the film, but you are part of the story. You are making life decisions for your character. So this was one style of narration that was experimented not long back in 2018. So where are we heading from now is absolutely ambiguous, enigmatic, but it is pretty exciting. Because from what I see, there are going to be more multimodal ways in which these stories are going to be conveyed. There is going to be celebration of confluence of literature and media. And we are not just talking about audiobooks. The consumers, no, the users, the readers, I wouldn't say the users, because kids these days are so, nothing can replace the experience of reading a book. I'm with you on that. But, we cannot deny the fact that audiobooks, podcasts are also becoming very, very popular among the younger generation today. So, so one way ahead, this is the way ahead, definitely. But what could be one healthy way ahead is to understand this, understand that things are changing, understand that times are changing, and embrace technology, not shy away from it or wish away that this didn't happen. This is happening. Now, is this going to call the death of this artistic form? Definitely not. They are going to be coexisting. No, nobody can call or make tall claims like this is the end of this. Now is the time for something else to begin. I don't think that is simply possible at all. At no point in the future can we afford it. Books will always be books. Media will always be media. But there is going to be a lot of scope in the future for the confluences, for more multimodal narratives. We like it or not, that is the way ahead from here. I think I will stop there for the day and take questions from you if you have any.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Such a brilliant story that we heard, in fact, of how it all started, where we were, and till where we are headed now. So before I give my vote of thanks, let me invite people to ask questions from YouTube. Anybody or here, any questions, any comments?
Archana, it was an amazing session. I still remember you as a student in class, and the transformation today, it was really cinematic, and your expressions were so expressive of what you really shared, Archana. Simply admirable. Enjoyed listening to you, Ma. Thank you.
Thank you. So now this is all over. I can tell you, ma'am, I was having jitters from last night. I was calling people. I was like, what do I do? What do I do? And then it was like, okay, this is homecoming in a way. So let me brave it and all that. Thank you so much for the opportunity, ma'am. It means a lot to me because I had no idea of media. You know, media is a kind of accident. Dr. Sridhar is still listening to me, and he will probably agree to me because when I walked into SRM, I was student of English literature, and that was my only identity. And SRM, put me in some place out of context, and then my learning, my understanding, and then it broadened my vision, and then I started looking at the possibilities, and I think the journey started from there, ma'am.
Yes, Archana, that's pretty visible. I think I met you in a different conference
Yes,
when
ma'am.
you made a presentation, and that was very impressive. So that day I decided that I should bring you to MCC again. And
Ma'am,
it
there
has
is a
happened.
question. Sorry, ma'am. There is a question from YouTube. Becky George is asking, hello, ma'am. Thank you for the insightful presentation. I have a question. In what ways do you think the pandemic has brought about better convergence of literature and media?
Talking about the pandemic, sir, to the student or the participant who had asked me, there were just two things that did not go still all over the world. One was health, and the other one was education. Now, the pandemic kind of gave us a reality check, at least to academicians all over the world. Not all of us were trained, to interacting with our own students. For me to imagine a classroom without my students, because I'm sure most of the teachers out here would agree with me, because you need to look at them. You need them to nod with you. You have to make sure that you're not talking to yourself. So this is a hard reality check. We knew technology was out there. We knew Google, Zoom, Microsoft Team, all these applications were out there, and this was predominantly used by the corporate world. We also know we cannot ignore, or we cannot choose to ignore the fact that there is digital divide in our country. Not all of us have access to it. Yes, but having said that, I could easily say that these are the only two areas where we did not choke: health and education. I think pandemic kind of gave us a confidence that we could do a webinar. We can connect to people all over the world. We can still conduct our classes, conduct examinations. My son, he is with this corona batch. He had not given his board exams till now, which I'm not very happy about. So 10, 11, and hopefully 12, he will write right now. So the kind of harsh reality that this pandemic put us through, no, all of us have lost too much for us to put it in words, or document it in any form that you want. We have lost a lot, but we have also learned a lot. We have learned a lot, and these are the life lessons that is going to give us strength and gear us to go forward in life. Pandemic has made us understand that technology is not your enemy. You need not be scared of it. Initially, when Zoom meetings were held, we didn't know how far we should sit away from the camera also. We were all like this: are you listening to me? Can you see me? No, we had to constantly have this existential: am I there? Are you there? This kind of things. And then we learned. And then we learned, and we're doing pretty decent, I would say.
I think Becky follows it up with another question. Has it acted as a catalyst in blurring boundaries? Has
it acted as a catalyst
in blurring the boundaries between?
In blurring the boundaries, yeah, it's almost a fluid term. No, the boundaries. I don't know if I could dare say, just like the geographical boundaries are very fluid. No, it is helping in a lot of way in blurring the boundaries. Yes, I agree with you on that. Very true. Very true.
There is another question by Krishna Karthikeyan. He's saying, brilliant session, madam. Thank you. Stories of marginalized people, particularly indigenous people, are finding vent through movies recently. What's your view?
Isn't that a wonderfully, wonderful relief, I would say? We had been mainstreaming a lot of things in terms of cinema also, but the alternate voices, no, the subaltern or the marginalized community, it's beautiful. I think the other day in my class, I was talking to my students about, it was a gender and literature paper, and we were discussing television ads, most of you might have this was pretty viral on social media also when Cadbury's Dairy Milk ad, the ad that was made in Esther years, the famous cricket ad with Dairy Milk where the batsman was a man essentially, and then a girl comes jumping, dancing, and then a gender revised ad was also made, and then we realized when we went back, a lot of projects were changing the narration, without realizing we are, creating or we are instilling certain ideas in the audiences, right? We are normalizing certain things. Abuse is all right. It is okay. This is a way of the world. Maybe we shouldn't make fuss about it. So the kind of messages that we were indirectly or unconsciously or subconsciously giving, it's slowly going away. I think alternative voices is very welcome. And like I said, we are working on a huge project out here, putting together the Northeastern folklore, the Northeastern rituals, their literature. See, the stories that we tell our children. Maybe the grandmothers were narrating, Indian fables, but with the kind of education that we give, we teach them fairy tales. We introduce them to Disney princesses. That teaches us that you always need a knight in a shining armor to come and rescue you when you are in distress. And you are always, even if you are a princess, you are always a damsel in distress and kind of things. But you will be fascinated to see that in our folk tales, women are very strong. They are not dependent on anybody. They are strong, they are bold, and they are much more real, and we can connect with them easily than the Western canonized, the texts that we are used to as children. The boundaries are beautifully, diminishing, or there is an amount of, I wouldn't say diminishing, there is a beautiful fluidity to it. Culture itself is fluid, the idea of identity itself is fluid. What is culture? Culture is not something that is already set there by our ancestors and for us to blindly follow. We make culture, we create culture, and in the process of creating, you take a lot from your roots, and then you contribute your own, and then you give it to your future generation, and from there it's going to evolve. So my parents' belief and faith and their moral fiber is not exactly handed over to us, right? We pick and choose. We adapt it. It's beautifully evolving. So yes, the boundaries are becoming more fluid with this.
Thank you, ma'am. Any more questions from YouTube or from Zoom? Anybody from the Zoom meeting wants to respond?
May I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Rachana, it was very nice listening to you.
Thank you so much.
We were just feeling the pulse of not only the present generation, but pulse of the future also, I may say. I was so happy because only this morning I was discussing with Dr. Meenakshi Shivram of Christ University, Bangalore.
Yes, ma'am.
We are moving towards structureless world. So even to have a classroom or to have a syllabus or kind of board of studies meeting for that, that may not be the kind of morphology for work it looks, because there is now the ritual of all that, but we also feel in some way dissatisfied with that. And therefore, so one point this morning I was telling Dr. Meenakshi Shivram was that we have come to a situation where there would be a structureless world. It may be shocking because you said that, rightly you said that it might intimidate us and it might make us feel uncertain, or you might feel elevated or released and so on from the constraints of structures. But whether we like it or not, we seem to be moving in human relationship, in teacher-student relationship. You talked about how the teacher has reoriented himself or herself in the pandemic period. That takes me to the point that Dr. Wesley made about pandemic. You talked about media, how I don't know much about film. Okay, never seen much of films, though there is a lot of film criticism, specialization, and so on. I'm nothing against that. But in the last 1.5 years, because you're a Bharatanatyam dancer, I thought you can see how the dancers, artists, performing artists, they have become very conscious of the fact that they have new areas and spaces to explore. The stage is not anymore the kind of stage that you can perform on, or a music teacher who had a small room and then talam botu paatu solli kuduthu, sorry for the Tamil. So even that has changed a lot. They have become earlier, no, I couldn't go, and there was very great musician there just behind my flat. So I went and said, will you teach me? I have some little knowledge. He just looked at me up and down and said, I was nearly 35. No, I'm sorry, madam, I cannot teach you. But now people like Ranjani Gayatri, people who are teaching Veena, even though you talked about film, I'm talking about areas which might be bordering on similar experiences. They come forward to teach because they see that as a kind of a negotiable space. Okay, so and then the question of inferiority complex, whether you know it or not, whether you sit in the class, you cannot answer a question, all those inhibitions, it may be there, but it's a gradual way of just giving them a death knell. Okay, so you learn it or you don't learn it. That may not be very good from the point of view of classical ideal, but the idea of a classical perfection itself is changing. That is why all so-called mainstream performing arts have changed a lot. Or they're stepping out. I'm not only thinking of P.M. Krishna. There are classical people who were grounded in kind of a tradition. Okay, whether it is Bharatanatyam or Mohiniyattam or Kuchipudi and so on, it has just opened. Jumped into the open space. The space is now open, and therefore, in one sense, it is a continuity. In another sense, it's a kind of a creation. This is what I felt listening to you. I'm sorry, I don't immediately.
No, absolutely.
But especially because I was thinking of a structureless world we are moving towards. We are moving to almost a Platonic world of ideas rather than structuring those ideas.
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. The artistic world is evolving, like you said, in the pandemic. Maybe during the first lockdown, during half of it, even then people were experimenting with online classes for dance.
Yes.
I remember initially when my niece and nephew from Sweden, their schools were also shut, they were homeschooled and all that. So I started Zoom, because we were just experimenting with these platforms, and I was taking classes for them. And then I found, because I couldn't allocate, we were also working on revisions and going online, and a lot of trainings and preparations for that. So channeled them to a different, to my own guru, and beautiful opportunities. And one thing with the internet and this media, the digital media, is that it has something for everybody out there. Your area of interest could be anything. For some people, it could be art. A lot of people, I have a friend in presidency, Dr. Kamalakanan, who turned out to be an artist overnight, I would say overnight during the pandemic. And I was amazed because I never knew this artistic streak in him before at all. So to see that on his Facebook, it's very encouraging. The things that we are exploring, the things, like ma'am said, that maybe something in the physical world restricted us. They said, not now, maybe not now, no, this is not the right time or something. But this time, this space that this is thrown open is amazing. So it has everything. It has something for every interest. No, it could be spirituality for somebody. It could be yoga. It could be cooking. It could be anything. And it is catering to the needs of different age groups also. It could be children. It could be teens, adolescents, and or adults and elders. There's something for everything. So at home also we might have seen parents glued onto their mobiles, listening to sermons or bhajans or whatever they are interested in. So that is the kind of opportunity, that is the kind of space we are getting into.
One more point struck me.
Yes.
It's not just about novel or literature. Performing arts now weaves in a lot many strands. For instance, they take up Sangam poetry, or they take up certain themes, for instance, where it could be water, it could be woman's body, okay, and then you construct a new narrative, but drawing from various representations of that in other forms of realization. It could be a lyric, or it could be something. It's not only Alamil Valley. There are more recent young people, you see, who have created, and they also make a kind of a subject of a seminar, or where performance of this in terms of the newly created thematic nucleus. That is really creating a symbiosis between various fields which were once separated almost, no? So like Andromeda galaxy is now almost entered into Milky Way, they say, because we may not live to see that, but it is slowly, it has entered the periphery of Milky Way. So we may not be fortunate to see that, but this may happen. This has already started happening. Poetry, dance, and then the Sangam poetry, the rap music, and all that, you know. So that's very interesting. Thanks a lot. Sorry
also,
for
also Natya Shastra. No, we cannot. I mean, this is one classic treatise that we gave to the world. No, Natya Shastra, and the idea of Navarasa itself. It is not necessarily restricted to performance. What was recently experimented on Netflix with Mani and a group of directors in terms of Navarasa itself. So taking one emotion and then looking at it, and then you know, creating a plot around it. So the idea of Navarasa also was something that we were discussing in another forum. So we always lean on Western theories, no? So when we look at it, I think with Natya Shastra, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, Natya Shastra and Dharam Shastra and I think Kama Sutra, and these are certain treaties that we gave to the world. So yeah, enough of studies and researches have been made with the Western theories, ma'am. I think now is the time for us to go local, go back to our roots and bring it to the world, document it.
Thank you, David, for giving me this.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. There's another question from Shirley Jim. She asks, if the current trends of blending between literature and media continue, do you think there will be a gradual decline in the traditional ways of teaching and learning English literature? If so, will it be accepted without hesitation?
Will there be a decline, or there is no one way of teaching literature, no? So the classes that I sat in are completely different from what we are delivering right now. Say for instance, we are all, the idea of examination, things that we try to experiment during the online period, I would like to share it with you, and I hope that will answer, that is answering to one part of the question that is put forth by this person. So examinations need not necessarily be question and answers, so multiple choice, part A, part B, definitely not. So we gave an option to students out here to when we were talking them introduction to literary studies, or when we were teaching post-colonialism or gender, they came up with their projects. So they were given an option of choosing a work, coming up with a composition of their own, and it could be any which way that they wanted to present it. We ideally wanted to see how they responded to this literary work. So it was in some cases a song, in some cases poetry, in some cases it was a work written by, another work written by this person. So the way in which literature is taught, is there going to be a decline in it? I don't think there is going to be a lot of blending. So for instance, when I was learning ballad or sonnets, I did not have the opportunity of listening to these things on YouTube. Not today we can play it to our students, tell them this is the music. So this is the kind of ambience that is created. So they are able to assimilate with the text. They are able to understand it better. So once when we play the ballads to them, they're like, ma'am, we have ballads in our tradition also. So these are the kind of instruments that we use here, and these are the themes of the songs. So a lot of debates open up, a lot of discussion opens up. And I think that is a beautiful way of learning as well. So is this going to be a decline? I don't see it as a decline at all. Like I said in the presentation, I think it is going to be progressive. There is going to be more creativity, more space for creativity, more space for understanding, and more space for learning.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So let me come to the formal vote of thanks. As I give the vote of thanks, I'm very happy to have listened to you, and I've been hearing from Meghla ma'am for the past 1 week about you. Even when we were inviting the principal, she was saying some nice, kind words about you, and all that is not untrue. When I did listen to you, and it was wonderful listening to you, ma'am. I thought that there was constant attempt at start from the scratch. I think you gave. I think I like the way you didn't assume that people would know. It didn't start off from the middle, but it started off from where we were, what we know, and then from there on to go on to so many layers. I think the title is deceptively simple, but and also the way you have expressed everything also looks deceptively simple, but I don't think it's that simple to really gather all that information and put them in that order and that way. I can see the work that might have gone into this, and the way you have exposed the naivety behind saying the book was always better. That really struck me. I was sitting there thinking, how many years we've been saying that. The book was better. Of course, the book will always be better, but that's like a dead end, right? So, you can say that and go. What about the film then? So there must be a plan for the filmmakers. They're not they're trying to make a fool of themselves in one way. They have a plan. So to explain the different styles of adaptation, to see that other point of view was something very new. And for us now, I guess we will think twice before saying something like that, because now we know from the media point of view. So the intersection was wonderful to explain to us where this kind of intersection takes place for us. So thank you so much for the other point of view in a way for us, because sometimes it can be within the literary domain and trying to look at it only from that elite point of view. And so, and the way media has democratized literature for us, historically speaking. So, and that historical lineage that you had also spoken of has really, now when we approach the idea of media, we can approach it with less misconceptions, with more of an open-mindedness about both of them. So thank you so much for such a detailed lecture. So for the efforts you have taken. So thank you one more time. And I would like to thank all the participants who joined from various places on YouTube in the Zoom meeting. Thank you so much, everyone. Special thanks to Professor Indra ma'am and Dr. Sridhar Krishnaswamy, who has joined us also, our head of the department and staff members who joined us. So thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. We'll meet again tomorrow, where our own colleague, Ms. Merin Wilson, would be speaking on memory studies and its research possibilities tomorrow at 3 p.m. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Archana.
Ma'am, thank you
sir.
so much
Thanks.
for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
if they
Archana
have
ma'am.
any queries and all, ma'am, they can always get in touch with me.
Okay,
Your
ma'am.
students, anytime.
Right.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, ma'am.
Right.
Indra
Thank you,
ma'am,
ma'am.
thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Indra ma'am, like I said, I met you in 2004 when I came for my MA entrance at Madras University, and then I came to MCC. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry if I didn't play a part in it.
Even back then, you asked me, "Are you happy with the general English syllabus? If given an opportunity, how would you change it?" I never forget that conversation we had.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you
I'll
so
not
much.
forget
Ma'am.
your presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Then I can sign off, no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
Archana. Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Right, Ma. Thank you.
Wesley, sir. God
Wesley,
bless.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
congrats,
God bless.
Wesley.
Thank
All
you,
the
ma'am.
best.
Ma'am,
நல்லா
super
இருந்துச்சு
speaker,
சார்.
ma'am.
கங்க்ராச்சுலேஷன்ஸ்.
கலக்கிட்டாங்க மேடம்.
ம். ஆமா.
லாஸ்ட்ல இருந்து ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு.
வேற டைமென்ஷன் கொடுத்தாங்க சார்.
அடடடடட. அதான் ரொம்ப சிம்பிளா பேசுறாங்க. ரொம்ப
But on the dance expressions are so visible. She's a dancer, இல்ல?
Okay, okay.
அது இன்னேட்டா இருக்கு, மாத்த முடியல மேம். அவங்கள்ட்ட இன்னேட்டா இருக்கு அந்த
இல்ல
எக்ஸ்பிரஷன்.
டான்சர்ஸ்க்கு எப்பயுமே இருக்கும் அது.
But
ஐடியாஸ்
excellent
கூட
presentation.
ரொம்ப சிம்பிளா அரேஞ்ச் பண்ணி அழகா a lot of work has gone. கண்டிப்பா ஒரு 2 weeks உட்கார்ந்து வர்க் பண்ணிருக்காங்க.
இல்ல சார், டிஃபரண்ட் டைமென்ஷன் டு அண்டர்ஸ்டாண்டிங்.
ஆமா, நமக்கு ஒரு வேற பாயிண்ட் ஆஃப் வியூ கிடைச்சிருக்கு.
ஆமா. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Wesley, sir. God bless.
Congrats, Wesley.
Thank you, ma'am.